Hello and welcome to this edition of San Diego People. I'm Sandra Moss. We are less than a month away to the general election, and today our focus is on the 52nd congressional race and the Democratic incumbent, Congressman Scott Peters. Congressman Peters heads up the 52nd district, which includes downtown, Coronado, La Jolla, Poway, Carmel Valley, and most of North City. And he is here with us today. It's great to see you.
Thanks for having me, Sandra.
All right, so it's been an interesting election season so far. You obviously won the primary in the past June. You were opposed by 5 different candidates, and you are in a runoff here running against Denise Gitchum for the 52nd congressional race. This is your second term as a congressman, and what do you have to say?
Well, I ran for Congress in 2012 because I saw an institution that was broken. If you remember, they had shut the government down. We had our credit downgraded for the first time in our nation's history, and I thought a different approach was called for. I thought I was the right person to bring that approach. I've been known throughout my career on the City Council and the Port Commission and now in Congress in San Diego as someone who can work to solve problems. That's my reputation here. I'm getting that reputation now in D.C. And I'm endorsed for my reelection by a range of people across the political spectrum, from the Regional Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Partnership, Biocom, which has called me Legislator of the Year, the National Chamber of Commerce, one of 5 Democrats last time, as well as Planned Parenthood, the League of Conservation Voters, and Citizens United, which is about getting big money out of politics. So that's the kind of record I think that San Diegans want. They want someone who can solve problems, and that's what I'll give them.
You mentioned the National Chamber of Congress, but also the local Chamber of Congress has also endorsed you. That's something that they typically don't do. This is your second endorsement from them. What do you attribute that to?
I believe this is the local Chamber of Commerce first endorsement of a congressional candidate ever of either party. It's because I think I've proven my record of independence. They were particularly interested in the work we've done on international trade. First, we brought $500 million to the border to slow those border waits. That work is just about done, and our border crossing is working fantastically well. And also, I was a supporter of the free trade agenda of President Obama to open up the Pacific to American-made goods and hold those other countries to the high standards of labor, environmental, and intellectual property that we take for granted here.
A lot of independent voters, the independent voter is crucial in order to win your congressional race this year, and that is something that all candidates are vying for. Is it more important this year than ever, would you say?
Well, my district is, I wish there were more districts like mine in Congress, but it's about half, it's about a third Republican, a third Democrat, a third Independent. So we're never going to elect Ted Cruz, we're never going to elect Elizabeth Warren. We're going to be trying to find people from either party who can solve problems, and that's what I bring, and not to bring extremism. And I'd suggest that's a little bit of a different approach than my opponent has.
Your opponent, Denise Gitchum, she is also... She is passionate about the environment, as you are. She's also a small business woman, and she has launched several attack ads against you. What do you think distinguishes the two of you?
Well, I have had a long run of service in San Diego, and I've made serving San Diego my life's work. And I'm glad she wants to take that up too. But really what you see from her, if you look at her positions on policies, which I think is the most important thing, is that you see kind of the same extremism that's got us into trouble in the first place. One of the things she wants to do, she's not for a women's right to choose, but she wants to defund Planned Parenthood. Even the services that provide preventative care for women, that's the kind of extremism that shut down the government. She supports tax cuts for the highest income individuals, which will put us further into debt, and again, has really become a partisan thing. That's not the kind of curriculum you're going to build agreement around, and that's why I think we need a different approach, and that's the approach that I've tried to bring.
All right. Well, we have some comments from your opponent, Denise Gitchum. She was on this program 2 weeks ago. We had asked her about the very contentious presidential race, and here is what she had to say about her support of Donald Trump.
The top 10 most competitive races in the nation. If I spend any time focused on something that I can't control, which is how any individual feels about either Hillary Clinton, who has a horrific record, or Donald Trump, whose rhetoric sometimes doesn't always align with a lot of our parties or mine, that's really a waste of my time.
So she didn't really answer the question there.
No, she sure didn't. And look, if my party nominated Donald Trump, I wouldn't want to talk about it either. But it's not right to say it's a waste of our time. Look, leaders are called upon to show voters and to show the people who would follow them what they're for. Know what she thinks. She talks about national defense. You know, Trump has aligned himself with Putin. He said we should get out of NATO. He's been reckless in his talk about nuclear warheads. We need to know what people running for Congress think of that. So it's not a waste of time for her to tell that. And also, you know, here's a woman running, and congratulations, we need more women running in Congress, for Congress. Why won't she step up and criticize him for what he said about Megyn Kelly and what he said about the beauty queen, and be an example for all these women who, you know, who are horrified by this. She could really be in a position to not waste time by making that statement. A
lot of the electorate is horrified not only by the Republican presidential candidate, but also the Democratic presidential candidate, Hillary Clinton, with her her problems with Benghazi, her problems with her email server. Her people don't trust her, one of the most distrust politicians on record. How difficult is it for you to support her as our next president?
Well, I'm happy to tell you my choice for president. We have one candidate who does have a tremendous amount of experience in the job, both being in the White House, being a senator, being a Secretary of State.
But what about the
I can't defend some of the things that she's done. I think she's apologized for them, and I wish she'd apologized earlier. I don't think she's been a particularly effective candidate in that way. But if you compare the experience and the temperament of the two, it's very clear that Mrs. Clinton is the right choice.
Let me get one more bit of sound from your opponent. Back to the 52nd congressional race. Denise Grisham also had some comments about your record in office. Let's listen to that.
Scott's the 10th wealthiest member of Congress. It doesn't matter how much party backing you have or the endorsement of what presidents. What matters is your record. And when you have a record that's as poor as Scott's is on national security and business issues and many others, and just poor judgment and the inability to pass a single bill for our district in 3 years, it's not that hard.
Your response to that?
Well, she's wrong about that, and she also misunderstands the job. Look, we passed a courthouse bill. We named a courthouse, which the families of the judges we named it after were happy with. The legal community was happy with it.
And what does that do?
It's just named a courthouse. But what I would say is that we've also taken 3 standalone bills that I introduced having to do with veterans' health, government waste, and transportation, and we have incorporated them into other bills. So they passed, they became law. Now that doesn't have my name on it because they're not going to change the name of the sponsor, but we enacted those bills. We have 7 other amendments having to do with energy, LGBT rights, homelessness, which is a very significant issue here, that we've all got incorporated into other laws and have been enacted. So she ignores all that. And Sandra, beyond all the legislative accomplishments which she wants to dismiss, and will be on our website so she won't have such a hard time finding them, the advocacy you can do is also very important. We're bringing $1 billion for infrastructure to San Diego for the trolley, $1 billion for the trolley. We're bringing border funding for the new SEALs facility, $10 million port grant for the port that we were trying to do when I was a port commissioner, but had a hard time getting done, as well as changing the formula for homelessness so we get more of our fair share. And that's effectiveness, and that's a record we can be proud of, and it's a record produced from working with everybody.
In that soundbite, she also alluded to the fact that as one of the wealthiest members of Congress, you're perhaps out of touch with your constituency. How would you address that?
Well, I think that's kind of name calling. I mean, I've gotten elected twice now. I beat a 12-year incumbent who threw this at me. I beat a tough challenger last time who threw it at me. People don't care about that. They care about what you're doing for San Diego. Are you doing the right thing for the country? And I'll let the voters decide that. I've done pretty well so far.
Congressman, you're going to be hanging out with us, so we'll be seeing you in just a short bit. But coming up next on San Diego People, we're going to talk to the San Diego Chair.